So as you all know by now, all hell broke loose at last Saturday's Nevada Democratic Convention. Lots of shenanigans went on. Effectively, the process was rigged to benefit Hillary Clinton, and there are many examples as to why this is the case. So first and foremost, more than 50 Bernie Sanders delegates were just denied delegate status for arbitrary reasons. Another example is they held vocal votes, and regardless of what people chose, the DNC chair in Nevada, Roberta Lange, unilaterally decided to implement the rules of her choice. And when Bernie Sanders supporters were really aggravated at this and were yelling and whatnot, well, they brought in armed guards to get them to settle down and whatnot. Because who would have thought that they would be frustrated with the rules, right? So anyways, to give you guys an example of just part of the shenanigans that went on, so here's a video of them doing a vocal vote for yay or nay, and clearly the nays have it, but Roberta Lange, she told everyone that her ruling was not debatable and cannot be challenged. Take a look.
I will call the question. It has been moved and seconded that the temporary convention rules be passed by the body. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no.
Now, to make matters even worse, after this happened, Senator Barbara Boxer came in from California, and she was really condescending to Bernie Sanders supporters, and she began to antagonize them. Take a look.
Now, when you boo me, you're booing Bernie Sanders. Go ahead. You're booing Bernie Sanders. Let's hear it for Hillary Clinton. All right. We have the vote. We have the voice. We have victory. Yay. So keep on booing and boo yourselves out of this election. Go ahead. Yeah.
And now after that, she continued to be antagonistic because as she was leaving, she was blowing kisses to the crowd in a really sarcastic, condescending way. And then after that, she went on MSNBC and talked about how she was so afraid for her life when she was sitting there antagonizing the crowd.
I did fear for my safety, and I fortunately had a lot of security around me.
So this is what our democracy has come to. Now look, I'm only giving you a small snapshot as to what happened. I'll put full stories to what happened in the description box, but what I actually want to talk about is the aftermath. Because effectively what we saw was that the process was rigged in favor of Hillary Clinton. This isn't the first time this happened this election cycle. The Democratic establishment has overwhelmingly been in the tank for Hillary Clinton since the beginning. We've seen this time and again with DNC chair Debbie Do Anything for Hillary Wasserman Schultz, and now we see it with Roberta Do Anything for Hillary Lange. So it's really frustrating that they have the gall to do this and then get angry and bring in armed guards when people get upset that they're rigging the process in front of their very eyes and don't like it when they are antagonized. But the shenanigans that ensued after this may be more outrageous than what happened at the convention. So is it the case that the Democratic establishment are sorry and are being apologetic for what they did at the convention? Well, they're actually blaming Bernie Sanders supporters and are claiming that they were violent at the convention. And also they're focusing on what Bernie Sanders supporters did to the DNC chair afterwards. So the official complaint that the Nevada State Democratic Party filed to the DNC after they rigged the convention is as follows. We write to alert you to what we perceive as the Sanders campaign's penchant for extra-parliamentary behavior, indeed actual violence in place of democratic conduct in a convention setting, and furthermore, what we can only describe as their encouragement of and complicity in a very dangerous atmosphere that ended in chaos and physical threats to fellow Democrats. Indeed, the threats to the chair of the Nevada State Democratic Party are ongoing at time of this writing, as Sanders activists have posted her cell phone and home address online and have bombarded her with threats to her life and the safety of her family. The situation had reached a point where public safety could no longer be assured and that the proceedings had to be concluded in very short order, hence the reason why they decided to bring in armed guards. Now I'll put the rest of the complaint also in the description box, and essentially what they're saying is that Bernie Sanders supporters are violent. They were being violent. They resorted to violence. They claim that there were chairs that were thrown and whatnot. And they're just overwhelmingly focusing on Bernie Sanders supporters. They're not taking into account the fact that they rigged the process and that they caused some of this outrage. Not at all. So now the media, Debbie Wasserman Schultz is claiming that chairs were thrown, for example. That's one of the acts of violence that went on. But unfortunately for them, there is zero evidence of this. There is one video of a guy picking up a chair, but he puts it back down and then he hugs someone. So that's bogus, and even Snopes debunked this. It's fake, but yet the DNC chair as well as the Nevada State Democratic Party keep perpetuating this myth because they want Bernie Sanders supporters to look bad. They want them to look violent. They want you to look away at what they did and focus on what Bernie Sanders supporters did. Now, of course, the media is having a field day with this. Here's a taste of what they've been saying.
People wave signs, they boo, they yell.
Chairs being flipped.
No, first of all,
show me
one.
Saying that
show
she's
me,
being threatened.
Hold on, let's separate the two things.
Barbara Boxer said she feared for her life.
Shouting,
it's not nothing.
You can't tell Barbara Boxer that when Barbara Boxer, who is a lioness in the Senate, says she feels threatened, that's okay?
No.
Sally, I'm going to begin with you because I know that you've been an avid Bernie Sanders supporter since the beginning, but we've now got a grandmother who is worried about her 5-year-old grandchild. We've got a woman who says her marriage might be on the brink because of Bernie Sanders supporters. We have a U.S. senator who just said on live national television that she feared for her life at a Democratic convention. Where is this going, Sally?
Well, okay, first, let me just say one thing I think it's important to say, which is I know we in the media often love sort of drama and false equivalencies, and in no way, shape, or form is this akin to what's happening in the Republican Party. There you have leading
figures. Answer the question. I don't want to talk about the Republicans. I'm going to the Republicans in about 10 minutes. But I need 10 full minutes to get down on this mess. It is ugly. It is foul.
Okay, wait.
Someone who is fearing for her life. Yes. Where is this going?
Now, there is evidence that someone did dox DNC Chair Nevada, Roberta Lange's information, her home address, her cell phone, and she has received really threatening voicemails and really odd text messages. Here's some examples. So someone texted her and said, "Hey, bitch, we know where you live, where you work, where your kids eat, where your kids go to school, and grandkids." And another person called her the biggest cunt in politics next to Clinton. And she was also texted pictures of a guillotine. This is really just troubling. And it goes without saying, I wholeheartedly condemn violence. I never, ever condone violence. I'm in favor of nonviolent protest. I'm in favor of actually using constructive means to accomplish political objectives. So if you are someone who did participate in this, then you're being counterproductive. This is wrong. Please don't do this. You don't have to do this. We can win on the merit of our argument. So the wrongness of what they did and the harassment that she's received is immoral. But that doesn't mean that she's not also guilty for doing what she did at the Nevada State Convention. Now, here's the thing about this. If you are receiving all these death threats and whatnot, please do not post them online. Report them to the Nevada police. And I'm guessing what they would instruct you to do is to stay inside your house. Don't send them online, because when you publicize this, then you make matters worse. And furthermore, part of me wants to pull out my tinfoil hat and question the validity of this based on her actions. Because if you're really afraid for your life, and look, I'm not going to say challenge her, but if you are, then you don't want to publicize this. You want to make sure that you stay out of the spotlight for a few days. You want to report everything that you see to the police. But if she's releasing them online, then there's evidence that she didn't report them to the police because they probably wouldn't allow her to release this. And furthermore, we know about how David Brock is paying $1 million for Clinton trolls to correct the record on Bernie Sanders. So who knows if this is something orchestrated by them. But regardless if this is true or false, again, let me just state that I never condone violence. I'm a humanist. I believe that even these threats, if they're baseless, just the psychological impact that they have, it's wrong. And you should never do it. Okay, you can try to challenge Roberta Lange's legitimacy through legal means. You can try to challenge her and sign petitions and get her to step down. But if you send her threats, then that's just wrong. And I wholeheartedly condemn violence, as does Bernie Sanders. In fact, he stated, "I condemned any and all forms of violence, including the personal harassment of individuals." Now, in spite of this condemnation, Roberta Lange is still demanding an apology from Bernie Sanders. Take a look.
Not only were people talking when we were trying to run the convention and yelling and rushing the stage and throwing chairs and yelling for my death in the crowd, Those are the kinds of things that have to be stopped. And
what should he say? How can he stop that?
I've not received an apology. I've not received anything from the Sanders campaign. I haven't seen anything that said that this should stop.
So it's clear, Roberta Lange is against violence, as she should be, as any rational human being should be. But when asked about whether or not she had anything to say about the violence that Bernie Sanders' campaign had dealt with, so for example, there were gunshots fired into his campaign office in Nevada, and some of his staffers' houses were ransacked. She had nothing to say about this. She didn't know what to say.
You are the state Democratic chairwoman, and if this happened at a campaign headquarters in your state, I would assume that there would be some curiosity or concern enough to at least have someone in the office call.
Well, look, it happened at 10 o'clock last night. Our office isn't open yet. I haven't had any opportunity to take any steps forward. Look, I am concerned. I am concerned not only for my safety and what has happened to me, but for the safety of everyone involved.
So here's the thing about responsibility. Is it the case that Bernie Sanders is responsible for condemning the actions of his supporters? Absolutely. Has he done that? Yes, he has. Does he need to apologize for the actions of his supporters? No, because his movement is very broad. He can't control the actions of his supporters. And if you claim that he does owe Roberta Lange an apology for actions that he can't control, well then you're being incredibly unreasonable. Let me tell you why. So if that were the case, if Bernie Sanders is supposed to apologize to Roberta Lange for the actions of his supporters, I want an apology from Hillary Clinton, because I've been tweeted to, I've been called homophobic slurs. Is Hillary Clinton going to apologize to me? I also would like an apology from Donald Trump, because one of his supporters told me that I should be deported to Mexico. I'm not Mexican, so you can't deport me to Mexico. But, I mean, nonetheless, it's xenophobic, right? I'd like an apology. So the point I'm trying to make is that if you're going to demand an apology from a candidate for the actions of their supporters, then they're not going to have much time to campaign, because they're going to be here all day, because every single candidate has a proportion of their supporters that are just immoral, that are assholes. Okay? And Bernie Sanders is no different. But what counts is that he condemned the violence. That's what you have to do. You can't encourage it like Donald Trump, where he said, I'll give you money or I'll pay your legal fees if you punch that guy. That's wrong. Bernie Sanders didn't do that. He took responsibility for the actions of his supporters and condemned any violence and harassment. I don't know what more you want. It just proves evidence of the fact that you may be using this as an opportunity to further vilify Bernie Sanders. Just like you're the victim of online harassment, Roberta, Bernie Sanders supporters are also victims. They're victims of a political system that favors the billionaire class. They're victims of political violence against them. We're victims of an oligarchic state where only special interests get to dictate policy outcomes, and our voices have a statistically non-significant impact on policy. That's from a study from Princeton University by Dr. Gillens and Page that found that only the business class, only the billionaire class, actually have a say when it comes to policies that are passed. That's wrong. The political system victimizes people every single day. So what you did, Roberta Lange, is further perpetuate the victimization of the working poor class. You made our, quote, democratic process even more undemocratic than it already is, just so that way you can help Hillary Clinton get a couple extra delegates so that way she can get in office and do the bidding of her rich billionaire donors. That's wrong. You're guilty too. Take responsibility for it. Now, I'm not saying that you deserve to be threatened for what you did. Nobody deserves that. Nobody deserves to have their information doxxed and to be threatened and to have their family threatened, okay? That's wrong. That's immoral. I condemn that. But you're also guilty. You cheated. You are a cheater. You cheated for Hillary Clinton when you didn't even have to. She could technically lose all the remaining states left by a certain margin and still become the nominee. Why? Why would you do that? And furthermore, actions have consequences. You can't rig the democratic process under the nose of Bernie Sanders supporters and not expect them to be angry and outraged. You see, they've proven that they are a very mobilized group of people. They will phone bank for Bernie Sanders. They will donate to him. They'll come together to attack injustice that they see. And that manifested itself in a very bad and unproductive way this time, unfortunately. But what you did was wrong. So yes, it's the case that violence is wrong, and I don't condone that. Again, I'll say it. I condemn violence and harassment. But that doesn't negate from the fact that what you did is also wrong. So Bernie Sanders did his part. He took responsibility for their actions. He condemned the violence. Now it's time for you to take responsibility for your actions. It's time for you to step down from your position as DNC chair in Nevada. You also You need to realize that what you did was wrong.